If you've taken a look at the channel recently, odds are that you can see that I'm currently obsessed with Edgelord's Reunion 5. Whoops, silly autocorrect. It's actually Devil May Cry 5. This recently released character action game has kept me hooked even after completing my first playthrough on stream. So why should you care about this game? Why is it held in such high regard? Well, my young edgelord disciple, you're in luck. Because it is I, Professor Shadowblade Man McEdgeton III, holder of not one but 2 PhDs in the study of edge. And today I'll be teaching you how to be so edgy that even knives will be jealous of you. So throw on your leather jackets, cut your hair in the most ridiculous fashion, and make sure you dye it either white or black, as we look into why Devil May Cry 5 has potential for Game of the Year. To give this game some background as to why I think it stands out, I have to start off by complaining about the current gaming industry. I would argue that the current gaming community as a whole is tired of receiving half-finished games, that it seems like their main goal is to hook consumers into a pointless, endless grind, so that they can get players to empty their wallets so they can fuel their new addiction through microtransactions or DLC or whatever it is. It's getting more and more rare to find these games that are released that are polished to completion, with an emphasis on giving players a fun, exciting, or satisfying experience, or all three. It's not often that we see a AAA company release a game that is not entirely broken from the start. And at this point, it's almost insulting. It's like they're trying to say they don't value the opinions of their consumers enough to actually try to give them a product they deserve. But I think this big issue is exactly what sets Devil May Cry 5 apart from other games released this year, or even games I would argue from last year. Simply put, Devil May Cry 5 is fun, and it's incredibly satisfying to play. It utilizes its systems enough to where you can grasp them and enjoy them, and changes it out for something new before you grow tired of it. It's a game that seems to respect its player base, and it delivers exactly what it knows they want. It's not a time vacuum. It instead supplies you with a refreshing experience that you can complete fairly quickly. My playthrough on the human difficulty on stream was roughly 11 hours long, but that's when the game gives you higher difficulties to challenge you even further. It's odd and even kinda sad when you think about it that this has become an admirable trait in games now. But I'm very happy that Capcom lately have listened to the fans and delivered exactly what they wanted. This is demonstrated twice now with the RE2 remake and now DMC5, both only a month apart from each other. But now that I've given you an overview, let's jump right into what makes DMC5 so fun. Just a little disclaimer before I get into this. I just want to let everyone know that I'll be avoiding spoilers in this video, so any mechanics or story things that I leave out in this video, that's why I want people to be able to watch this video before they play it. So now with that all out of the way, when playing through this game, you will alternate between playing all 3 main characters, that being Nero, V, and Dante. So let's start this off by talking about Nero. Nero's gameplay gives him access to an arsenal of robot arms called Devil Breakers, all that come with unique skills and actions. He's also given access to his sword, which has numerous combos and a unique revving system, which allows you to rev your sword like the throttle of a motorcycle, letting you dish out insane damage. And lastly, you have access to a very large revolver named the Blue Rose, which gives you access to normal shots, and you can hold down the firing button to unleash more powerful, potent blasts. I really enjoyed playing Nero's missions. I was always excited when given access to a new Devil Breaker. Ones like Ragtime, giving the player access to slowing time in an AoE field in front of Nero, working similarly to the way that Bayonetta's Witch Time worked in the Bayonetta games. Or my favorite Devil Breaker, the Buster Arm, which allowed Nero to grab an enemy and do extreme damage. Each enemy type had a unique animation when grabbed. Sometimes it would be a throw, a suplex, an execution, so on. The Devil Breakers were by far the most appealing part of Nero's gameplay. I found myself approaching conflict differently depending on the scenario of whichever arm I was equipped with. And if that arm didn't fit the scenario, I could just overload it and do heavy damage to all the enemies. To explain what that means, the overload system is accessed by maxing out the Devil Breaker by holding down the Devil Breaker button until the arm itself glows and you can let go and release a powerful attack. This will destroy the current arm, but it will rotate to the next one in your arsenal. I would say the depth of Nero's gameplay was fairly extensive, especially when you would piece together each aspect and elements of his gameplay to achieve maximum damage, the highest score possible, or even to fill up the gaps that were unsafe in your combos. I still feel like I personally have a lot to learn about his gameplay, which I feel is a driving force for players to go back and keep playing this game after you finish the first campaign on a higher difficulty. So now let's go ahead and move on to V. V's gameplay is definitely the most unique when compared to Dante's and Nero's. His whole combat style revolves around his demons or familiars or whatever you want to call them. You'll have access to Griffin, Shadow, and Nightmare. All 3 have their own combos, systems, animations, you name it. Griffin, mainly focusing on range and AoE attacks, will execute the attacks you command, while also responding to your calls for aid when you need to double jump, dodge backwards, or hover. He's the only demon out of all three that actually speaks, and man, does he speak. A lot. Next we have Shadow. Shadow executes melee attacks and looks very cool while doing it. Like Griffin, he will attack when commanded, but will also come to your aid when you dodge to the side, or will serve as a sort of wave of energy to help V travel faster while sprinting. Now we get to that thick boy. Nightmare is your incredibly slow-moving but giant death machine. He can control himself when you summon him after you've filled the Devil Trigger gauge, or you can ride on his back and issue manual commands. Nightmare was mainly my, "oh no, I'm actually getting hurt" button. He would get you out of most bad situations and would deal massive damage to everything around him. As V, you would have to keep an eye on all of your demons' health bars. If they sustained too much damage, they would go into a state called stalemate, meaning that V would have to manually revive them, or would have to wait a duration for them to revive themselves. Also, a huge aspect of V's gameplay was the fact that none of your demons could actually kill other demons. You, as V, had to finish them off yourself. So you would sit back, issuing commands to teleport in and finally deliver the killing blow. It was honestly a very fun game of keep away. I found myself really enjoying it, despite the fact that every time I looked at the gameplay trailers, I thought I wouldn't. Lastly, my favorite, we're going to be talking about Dante's gameplay. Dante easily has the most diverse and extensive arsenal. You have access to swords, pistols, shotguns, hand-to-hand combat, missile launchers, nunchucks, a motorcycle that can split into axes, and a hat. Even after all that, you're also given combos for each and every melee weapon, and 4 different combat styles that change your playstyle to a degree. Oh, and not only do you have all of that, but you can do it all in an amplified demon form that buffs all of your damage and regens your health. Playing as Dante definitely gave the player the largest amount of options on how to dismantle their demons. I consistently found myself smiling when I was playing through all of the Dante missions. Every weapon he had was fun to use, and it was fun to use them in different ways, as the combos and styles and other weapons allowed, making him by far the most satisfying character to play as. While playing through the missions, each encounter with enemies will be scored in the upper right corner of the screen. The more damage and variety of moves you deliver, the higher that you can boost your score. This is mainly an ego boost more than anything else. While higher scores will result in more red orbs, which are currency in DMC5, it's not like you'll be given a shortage of them throughout your playthrough regardless of your score. I still really enjoyed this system, as it challenges you to change up your playstyle, rather than mashing the same combo over and over again. Something that I would argue is very crucial in character action games is enemy designs and enemy AI. DMC5 nailed this from start to finish. The game gave you the ability to feel like an unstoppable murder machine, but also gave you some enemies that if ignored or dealt with carelessly, could ruin your day. If you're a filthy casual like myself, odds are that you'll have your first playthrough on the human difficulty. This is the equivalent of a normal difficulty in games, but on this difficulty, it will actually be hard for you to die. I only ended up dying to the last boss in my entire playthrough, and that was purely out of carelessness. If I had been paying a little bit less attention to stream chat, I could have easily avoided it. So with all this being said, on this difficulty, the biggest thing you have to worry about when it comes to enemies is avoiding taking damage so it won't lower your score. I would honestly recommend for pretty much any player to start this game out on Demon Hunter difficulty on your first playthrough. It's very doable, and will present you with a challenge that encourages you to develop better player habits than on the human difficulty. Because after you complete any playthrough in DMC5 the first time, you will unlock a new difficulty that acts as a new game plus called Son of Sparta. This will increase damage, AI responsiveness, and number of enemies. It will also up the rarity of enemies. What I really mean by this is that in any encounter from your first playthrough, there will most likely be at least one much harder enemy than last time. This difficulty presents a more exhilarating challenge for players that just want more of the game after completing it. But then, after you complete this difficulty, you can challenge yourself even more with the Dante Must Die difficulty, this giving you an even larger dose of what makes Son of Sparta difficult. It may seem tedious for a game to ask you to play through the campaign at a minimum of 3 times, but I can tell you the combat is fun enough to keep you hooked. I should mention that you're not missing a ton if you decide to make this game a one-time through experience. The other difficulties will give you access to costumes, some other abilities on characters, and so on, but it's not necessary for you to get the full experience. I personally can't get enough of this game, and I found myself itching to start the Son of Sparta mode right after I finished my first playthrough. I'm aware that character action games aren't for everybody, but when playing through this game, I couldn't help but feel refreshed on how exciting the experience was. Every time I acquired a new weapon, devil breaker, combo, or whatever it was, I was always so eager to try it out. The game never made me feel like I was waiting for those reveals either. I never once consciously thought, I need a new weapon right now to freshen up the gameplay. There was always a steady flow of new content to keep you engaged and not letting you lose attention for the full duration of the story. I don't often find new games released that click so well for me anymore, or don't end up feeling like a chore to play it. From the combat, the alternating characters, the enemy encounters, the boss fights, and everything else. I really do feel that DMC5 may not be the most original game at a glance, but it takes so many enjoyable aspects of what gamers want and fuse them together seamlessly with level of polish that this industry often lacks. And I think for those reasons alone, this game deserves to be in contention for Game of the Year of 2019. And this is one of those cases that I would be okay with being wrong, because if this is where the bar is being set for the rest of the year's releases, then we're in for an amazing year of gaming. As we wrap this up, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on DMC5. Did this video influence you to give it a try? Also, do you think it deserves to be considered for Game of the Year? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, make sure that you like this video if you enjoyed. And I just wanted to take the time to say thank you to everyone who has subbed to this channel so far. My goal for March was to hit 30 subscribers, and you all blew that out of the water by doubling it to 60. It means a lot to receive this much support, and I hope to provide to all of you an entertaining and informative experience that you feel is deserving of your time. So if you would by chance like to join these amazing people and help me along on my YouTube journey, it would mean a lot to me if you'd hit that subscribe button. It would be absolutely incredible if we could hit 80 subs by the end of April. But thanks again to everyone for being here and listening to me ramble on about things I enjoy, and I hope to see you all in the next one.